next on Beyond Reincarnation.
Reincarnation is the foundation stone of many religions, including Hindu and Buddhism. Even in Christian societies, there is a belief in multiple lives. In North America, for example, surveys have shown that 61% of adults believe in reincarnation. Some might say that such a belief is merely wishful thinking. Is this really all there is? It's more comforting to imagine we get another crack at life if we screw up. On the other hand, some might say, once is enough, thank you very much. Not again, please. But many believe that the repetition is the only way to learn to develop into the perfect human being. Belief in reincarnation varies greatly between religions. Some believe that karma and its lessons span several lifetimes, and that between lives we meet with counselors, guides, and supporters to plan out what kind of life we would live and what is to be learnt in the next lifetime. Others believe that karma and life lessons happen during one lifetime, and one must keep on living until one gets everything right in one single life. Of course, to do this takes several lifetimes of trial and error. Some believe that to have knowledge of prior lives is wrong, a little like insider trading. Others believe that the higher self or spirit gathers the knowledge from all of the lives and guides the physical self onto the right path. For those of us who are not Hindu or Buddhist, about 40% think that the notion of reincarnation is complete and utter nonsense. Some believe that reincarnation is confused with time anomalies, as discussed in quantum physics. Others believe that what we take for past lives is in fact possession or shared possession by the spirits of the dead. Some believe that we are tapping into an intelligent cellular field, or that we are picking up thoughts from the dead from a non-local field of thought. Whichever it is, there is worthy evidence that something is happening. Tonight, the team takes an objective look at this belief, which is held by about 50% of the world's population, and tries to determine exactly how many versions of lives can be observed, cohabiting the shadows that lie beyond.
Maybe when I was very, very small kid, I think I had the memory about the past life. But we think that each person or all the people have potential to have the deity in our mind. So that's the goal of a practice. So nothing more than that, bigger than huge God or like things we don't think about like that. From my profession, I want to be medicine Buddha, of course.
Since 1391, Buddhist leaders, the Dalai Lamas, have been chosen by their ability to prove that they are the reincarnation of the previous Lama. The word Dalai means ocean, and the word Lama means guru, or wise one. Together, the title means ocean of wisdom. It is logical that this ocean of wisdom should reincarnate to different bodies rather than be lost at the end of a natural lifespan. So when a Lama dies, he usually leaves instructions on where to look for his next body. The current Dalai Lama is the 14th incarnation of the leader of the Tibetan Buddhists and the 14th incarnation of the compassionate Buddha. When he dies, the Buddhists will immediately send out search parties led by personal friends and relatives to find the new reincarnation where the Dalai Lama has told them to look.
The Dalai Lama and some of the other Tibetan lamas are cases that are similar to that in that they put them through rigorous tests. They are interested in making sure they got it right, and so, you know, what they do, as you're implying here, is they show the boy that claims, or that they already have decided was the previous incarnated as one of their lamas, and now they're saying he's the reincarnation of that one, and they're putting objects that previous one used alongside objects that he did not use, and seeing if the child can identify the objects used, the prayer beads or the all kinds of objects they bring, and they do a test, and the child presumably gets all the things right according to what the previous incarnation was using, and does not claim to have used the other stuff, and sometimes that child will show recognition of other people that knew, and the people of the. Now the other thing is that in the Tibetan tradition, the lamas themselves will often spontaneously see, several of them will independently recognize this child as being the reincarnation of someone whom they knew closely, who has now died, and several years ago, and they will say, "Oh, this child is the spirit of that one, or it's the next version of that consciousness of that one." So that would be one of the types of stronger cases.
But this is not the only case in which children provide evidence supportive of the phenomenon of reincarnation.
The best such cases, then, are those in which Ian Stevenson, the University of Virginia psychiatrist who is most known for the research in the reincarnation type cases, cases in which he gets there before the child is taken to the family that they said they were previously a member of. He wants to be there when the meeting takes place. If he's not there, the question is always, did the families themselves exchange this information so the evidence is like contaminated? He wants to get there when the child is first brought to where the child said it had a previous life, and when it encounters that family and can show recognition of previous family members and events that transpired while it was a member of that family, and so convincingly show that it was actually, that it had the life that it claimed to have had and died at the time it did.
The way I have gone takes that extra step and says there is a divine which is manifesting Atman, unlike the Buddhist view of Anatman, and that Atman then connects each individual with the divine, and that there is, in some sense, a complete totality which is made up of all these manifestations. So they're all the manifestations of, say, one spirit being with a lot of lives, and then a lot of spirit beings, but when you put it all together, you've got the divine, okay? Something like that. Whereas I think in the Buddhist tradition, as I understand it, there tends to be a sense of serial lives, which goes on, this goes on for billions of years. And it will continue to go on for billions of years. And so the aim is to get out of this wheel of samsara and move on to another state, which is nirvana, which means blown out. And blown out just means that there are no more desires. I have no more desires which would draw me back into this wheel of cause and effect.
Endocrinologist Dr. Deepak Chopra has hypothesized that the universe is comprised of an intelligent field. He has given examples of how cells in the body communicate with each other, independent of the brain. The cells are continually sending messages to one another and interacting with their own independent intelligence. In quantum physics, we see certain spooky effects where entangled particles have an independent effect on each other, and when separated are still linked while continuously communicating with one another. These communications exist outside of the normal time and space continuum. In certain circumstances, it can be proven that these cells can communicate with cells from other bodies. It has also been noted, for example, that jittery cells can jump from one organism to another, and that a jittery cell jumping from one body to another can make the cells in the other body jittery. Both medicine and quantum physics show us that there is a functional communication of information or intelligence at a molecular level. We know that this intelligent subcellular field can communicate information over any distance and instantaneously without the standard constraints of time or distance. Therefore, it is possible that the cells in our bodies can share information with other cells in this universal field without a physical link. This field of physics poses a lot of questions still to be answered, but it would seem that we may be very close to an understanding that telepathy, remote viewing, prophecy, faith healing, and knowledge of past lives may all be a part of the same quantum phenomenon. Not a paranormal or supernatural phenomenon, but rather the amazing reality of entangled particles and intelligent cellular fields.
So how the particle in Timbuktu knew that this particle has been seen in the upper state by the observers here, and therefore I better be down in the down state. That's the spooky part. This is the beauty of the 21st century science, that everything that we know, it doesn't matter whether it is science or whatever, everything that we know, they're all coming together. And if you promise to cut this thing out of your tape, it has impact on religion.
It is in this area of research that we may well see what is currently believed by many to be absolutely impossible, a union between science and religion.
How to put this even? It's almost as if there's a hierarchy of incarnation rather than going through time for incarnation, which reincarnation suggests. It's as if there's a higher form of our spirit body, which then incarnates in a layer of beings here, which then incarnate in a layer of beings here. And I don't know how many levels there are there. And the lowest level is the one with all the really negative stuff. But it's not, well, let me put it this way. It's as if the spirit person, spirit being, wants to experience everything. So it's not as if being a prostitute in that life was an evil thing. It was an experience which, to find out what do people in that circumstance feel, what do they experience. She committed suicide. And at one point, I had to go through the whole process of re-experiencing her suicide.
My experience working with many people, having experiences of my own, and people close to me, certainly leads me to the conclusion that we live many times. We have very many different experiences. Now, part of the work, of course, within healing is exploring the patterns of those lives. The patterns connected with certain issues, for example, are very much a part. And it's almost like we're following a thread back into the hologram that we are.
And instead of keeping those at a distance, you can integrate those and even some of the abilities of those, quote, past lives into the present life. For instance, I used to do a lot of sculpting, and one kind of sculpture I did was a welded sculpture, and I learned the technique of that from a past life. This was a woman. She was half native North American and half white. It was sometime early in the last century, in the 20th century. she had finally had to, she was an outcast really, and so she had finally had to become a prostitute in order to make a living, but she took the money and made sculptures with it. And it was when I got back into that past life that I discovered the technique for making the sculptures that sit out on my front lawn. Okay? So it's possible then to not only integrate all of these, but you can learn things from all these past lives, which gives me a different view of what past lives are. In a sense, they're concurrent lives, I think. And I'm here, and these other lives are experiencing things. They affect me, and I, in turn, can affect them.
He gave me names of streets, names of buildings, names of people, occupations, children, genealogy. He gave it all to me. And I just wrote. I asked him if it would be all right if I, first of all, I asked him if he had any association, because it was in England. I said, did you know anyone, do you now know anyone in England? No. Have you ever been to England? No. He'd basically been around Saskatchewan, hadn't traveled a lot, didn't have a lot of association with people, wasn't well read, wasn't into a lot of research. You've got something coming up.
That's so weird.
You've got something coming up around England.
I was sitting taking notes of Judy's interview, and at this time she's talking about past life regression, reincarnation, that type of a thing. And out of the blue, Stephen starts coughing, choking, for no reason. And I look at him, and he's got this strangest surprised look on his face. His mouth like drops open.
Is that the peace order?
Yes.
Okay.
You got something coming around it. That's amazing.
Life regression, and she was talking about a session she had with a guy who was talking about past life in England, and all of a sudden Stephen just started coughing, just out of nowhere for no reason. And then I noticed this really weird look on his face, and it was just the strangest thing, and it wasn't like your normal kind of cough. It was very weird. I got a weird feeling about it, and then Judy stops the interview and says, you've got something coming up.
And all of a sudden, I had the weirdest feeling that something was crawling into my throat, down my windpipe. And I started coughing, and the coughing, I couldn't help but cough. And the coughing wasn't shifting it. And then it was only after Judy had this look of recognition on her face that it stopped. And the look of recognition was that she realized that this coughing was happening because I needed to do some past life regression, which I've always resisted because I don't know whether I believe in past lives or not, so I haven't, particularly. But now with this happening, we've decided we'll try past life regression on me and see how it works out.
And it is time now for you to forgive yourself. You no longer would do that anymore. You are different. And I would like to suggest to you that even in that lifetime, that you could erase that film inside. And that's the beauty about being able to go back there, is that you can't change that. So just gently and easily embrace that shift. That's right. That's right. Just know your body is changing, your mind is changing. That's right. You can find tranquility.
What you're attempting to do, and what your cellular memory is attempting to do, is to bring that memory into consciousness and to filter through the unconsciousness. And how does it do that? Through the body.
In a sense, they're concurrent lives, I think. And I'm here, and these other lives are experiencing things, they affect me, and I, in turn, can affect them.
Next time on Beyond Monsters. In this fourth season of Beyond, we will examine some of the major myths and legends of the paranormal, many of which have woven themselves into the fabric of our culture. Many are interconnected with other subjects in this and other seasons of Beyond. Sometimes the research leads to answers. Sometimes answers from science, sometimes from spiritual realms, sometimes from somewhere in between. Mysteries that inspire the imagination and compel us to seek an answer.
The notion that it is more reasonable to explain phenomena like reincarnation and telepathy with physics rather than with religious beliefs is perhaps revolutionary, but probably more consistent with the belief structures like Buddhism than we may initially think. Many of the descriptions of the spiritual processes found in Buddhist texts can be directly translated into quantum physics. Indeed, Nikola Tesla adopted terms directly from Buddhists and yogis to describe certain actions in physics because he found that Buddhists and Hindu terms were more efficiently descriptive of these effects than scientific terms. We are standing on the verge of understanding things about our universe that may obliterate these borders, and already in our lifetime, we have seen the development of sciences and arts arrive at a point where we're beginning to entertain the concept that thought may not be local, but rather that there is a field of thought, which our brains interact with instead of many individual brains operating as independent bubbles. The concept of non-local thought, if it can be proven, may one day explain how telepathy, distance healing, remote viewing, and psychic powers work. The notion that God exists everywhere, in all things, not bound by time or space, is in itself a concept which works in the quantum universe more than in any other system of belief. It's exciting for some that perhaps science is closer to showing part of the reality of God than any other system of belief. Just imagine the possibility that physicists may be more qualified than psychics to record and interpret data gathered from the mysterious beyond.